Breaking news with Based and Bougie. Guys, I have a serious question, right? Why do people willingly come into other people's countries, impose their values, their beliefs, their histories, their religion, and then call people bullies if you tell them that that is wrong? Let's get into this, guys. So, guys, I saw a video on Twitter and it was actually from 2024. So, this was probably last year that this happened. I actually couldn't find the full video. So, I think it's been taken down, but I found it on X. And it's basically this woman and she's in a hijab and she's basically making a speech at the TED Talk company event. I don't know what you call it. And basically insisting that in this country, this British country, this country that natively belongs to white English Anglo-Saxon people, she's insisting that we erase this white English Anglo-Saxon Western history and start inviting more multicultural other native countries' histories in the education system. Let's just watch this video.
It isn't as simple as just reading a few Maya Angelou poems during Black History Month. We have to fully incorporate the work and ideas of people of colour into each aspect of the curriculum.
Why? I don't get it. Why color? I don't understand. Why can't we just incorporate people of greatness? Why can't we incorporate people who have made a difference? Why can't we incorporate people who have left a positive influence in this world? Why is her main focus color? I don't understand it. I don't like is when people's approach is just color, color, color. There's no substance in that. There's no depth in that. I'm happy to listen to anybody and everyone, but it depends on what they've done. So already we're 11 seconds in and I already know her speech lacks substance because her argument is we just need to listen to people of color, not people of greatness, not people who have made a change, not people who have made a difference, not people who have left an impact, not people who have changed the world and done something good, but just color. It's just not a, it's just a, it just lacks depth.
By rethinking the very foundations of our education system to a point where it doesn't feel performative but provides beneficial insight. For example, at Nottingham Girls High School, we've refined the English curriculum to provide students with a more representative approach to the literature they study. We've replaced controversial books by white male authors, such as Of Mice and Men and The Boy in the Striped Pyjamas, with pieces of literature that celebrate a diverse array of authors and themes, such as the...
Again, why? I think people forget this is a white country. I genuinely think that multiculturalism has, and I feel so sorry for the white English native people because if this ever happened in my country, I would be vexed. Any other person would be vexed. But it's such a shame that the white Anglo-Saxon English community's history is just being erased right before their eyes. I don't understand. Imagine me going to Saudi Arabia and saying, we need to remove Saudi Arabian history and I want to see African history. What? This is a Saudi Arabian country. You you don't you don't go into another person's land and you came here willingly and start saying let's change the history. No, keep it white. And I'm gonna say that 1,010%. The same if I went to China, I want to hear Chinese history. If I went to Africa, I want to hear African history. If I went to, India, I want to see Indian history. Why are you telling me that I is forbidden? She's almost saying that we need to get rid of white males. And that's another thing I don't like. Like, what's this hatred and disdain towards the white male? I just feel like if you're male, if you're straight, if you're white, like that's the worst possible thing. And it's so contradictory because white males have built the world that you're living in, this privileged life that you're living in, where you have your freedom of speech, where you're able to even talk. I mean, wherever she's from, I know she's from not from here ethnically. She wouldn't even be allowed to speak. She wouldn't even be allowed to even wear a suit or trousers. She would have to literally have everything covered but her eyes. But yet you're here in the white man's country, the white man who even built this world where you can have freedom of speech, where you can give a speech, where you can wear trousers, okay, where you have benefits coming into your account, and now you're saying we have to forbid that. The audacity of people. The audacity of people. And you guys can sit here all day and say, "Oh, well, you're just cooning." I don't I don't care. Like, would would this be acceptable in Africa? No, it wouldn't. You guys would scream racism. Would this be acceptable in India? No, you wouldn't. You guys would scream racism. So why is it with the white race we have to erase everything? It's just suspicious to me. Like, what is it about this white race that you guys desperately need to erase wherever where you can? It's like something good is there that you guys are trying to destroy.
with pieces of literature that celebrate a diverse array of authors and themes, such as The Bone Sparrow and The Alchemist. We've also changed the language.
What is the Bone Sparrow and the Alchemist? It tells the story of a Santiago, a young Andalusian shepherd boy who embarks on a journey to fulfill his personal legend, a quest to find treasure hidden at the Egyptian pyramids after he has a recurring dream about it. So is this what we're replacing with Shakespeare? Is this what we're replacing with Mice of Men? These are amazing books. I mean, this is probably a good book, but I doubt that a book about a guy finding hidden treasures in the Egyptian pyramids is actually going to contribute to the mind of a student. Like, what is that supposed to do for me? But just from the summary alone, a quest to find a treasure hidden in Egyptian pyramid. What? You're a university student. Why do you want to read a book about a guy finding treasure? That is for nursery students. So the Bowen Sparrow tells the story of a 9-year-old Supi whose family have fled Burma, Myanmar, as a result of the persecution of the Muslim minority known as the Rohingya. I just don't understand why that's relevant to Britain. I don't understand it. I'm not saying these books should be banned. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying people shouldn't read it. But in terms of the education system, why we need to learn about Muslim minority persecution, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what role that would play in bettering society. But hey, it's just all about color. We need color, okay?
Is The Bone Sparrow and The Alchemist. We've also changed the language we use when teaching. Instead of referring to specific poems as poetry from other cultures, the module has been renamed to Powerful Voices.
I don't think anyone is referring to these books as other cultures. I don't, I've personally never seen that. And even if they are other cultures, then they literally are other cultures. I wouldn't be offended if someone called my culture another culture in another country. It happens the same way in my country, Congo. We refer to other cultures that is not the predominant culture, which is Congolese culture. Other cultures is not something that's offensive. I don't know. But yeah, powerful stories. Yeah, powerful colored stories. Woo!
So as to avoid othering certain cultures and students, and to eventually break down the Eurocentric view on literature.
Yeah, there's this whole debate about the term other, which is quite strange because in my job, I constantly have to fill out forms. And in the forms, I have to ask people's ethnicity. And what me and my colleagues actually noticed, when I first joined my job, is that there's no option for English. There's no option for English. It's just white. Do you understand? And I remember speaking to Bob of Speakers Corner, and he said the term white is offensive because the same way us black people, we have different countries, we have different cultures, we have different tribes. We wouldn't like it if people just refer to us as the blacks. Black people even get offended when people just say blacks with an S. Apparently, that's offensive. But on the flip side, with white people, the term whites, that's quite offensive as well because there's other cultures. There's, Eastern Europeans, there's the Irish, there's the Scottish, there's the Anglo Saxons. So when she's saying that we need to remove the term others, I'm not sure if you guys have noticed, but if you actually look at most forms these days, there's no option for English. It's literally just white. So again, it's like they're trying to make it seem like they're the minorities or they're the ones that are suffering, when really it's the people who don't even have an option for them to tick off on the box. Sorry, on the box in their own country. In their own country, guys, the audacity.
However, change needs to be made on a wider national scale to provide.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be made. It doesn't need to be made. And if you so desperately don't like the white man's culture, leave. Leave. I just don't understand this behavior. Like, I don't understand. I just don't understand it. Like, if I genuinely felt in my heart that it needed to go away, I would simply go. There's so many options for these people to go live in so they can see their colored history, their colored books, or their cultural books, but yet they choose to stay here and kind of enforce their values. I don't get it. The day I ever get tired of Britain, I am leaving. The day I ever get tired of hearing the English language and seeing the flag, I am leaving. Why? Because I have free will. But these people are acting like somebody's holding them hostage in this country. If you don't like white culture, just leave. The reason why I'm here is because I love Western culture. The West is the best. That's why I'm here. But it's just such a shame that most people just can't even admit it. They just constantly deny it, criticize it while still benefiting from it. And I can only imagine what, well, now I'm starting to understand why. And I can only imagine just how frustrating that must be, especially as a native English person. Because if I this was happening in Congo, I would be very frustrated. Like, I would pack your bags for you and literally pay for the boat for you to leave. Because why? If you don't like the culture, leave.
to provide students across the country with a more rounded view of the society we live in. When we learn about British history, we'd also learn about the realities of people living under the British Empire. Instead of just the European languages, there'd be the option to learn Mandarin, Arabic, and Hindi.
Yeah, it's just this erasing of British culture, of English culture. I don't get it. Like, why? If someone said, like, I don't get it. It's just, I don't get it. You know, when you're so lost for words, they are so evidently trying to erase English culture, English history, whilst living in an English land. And I don't understand why. And how did we get to a place in society where people are so comfortable doing these things and saying these things? Because you can never say this in Saudi Arabia, you can never say this in Qatar, you can never say this in China. From here, it's like the British community, the white community, they've been so silent. And I know most of my subscribers are white, but I strongly encourage you guys to speak up. Like, speak up. This is your land, this is your history, this is your pride, this is your native land. Do you understand? Someone like her, she's just privileged. She can always leave if this country goes, but this is your native land, guys. So really stand up for it. And because it's being erased, it's being taken away from you. And yeah, I just don't understand why this is allowed. Because when it's with Native Americans, people get offended. When it's with Africans, people get offended. But with British people, it's like you have to stay silent because this is no longer your country, this is our country. And that's the problem with multiculturalism, is that it's taken away the ability for the native English people to say this is my country because now it's ours. And I think that's just so tragic.
To learn about the realities of people living under the British Empire. Instead of just the European languages, there'd be the option to learn Mandarin, Arabic, and Hindi. Every subject has the capacity.
And another thing, guys, is if everyone spoke so many languages, how would we communicate? How would we do business? How would we do politics? This is why in countries you have just one common language that everyone can communicate with, because that's when business and politics and everything else, communication, it just comes so easily. But when you're encouraging everybody, let's just learn different languages, how are you going to communicate? So it's like these people, they come on stage and they think they're sounding smart, but they don't realize they actually sound very, very slow.
Capacity to change. And the final step is to adapt. The whole point of decolonizing the curriculum is to make the outlooks and experience.
She said decolonize the curriculum. What? Decolonize the curriculum? Darling, if you don't like this culture, you have free will, you can go. Second of all, people actually shed blood for this country. People have fought on the shores for this country. They made the ultimate sacrifice, whether it's World War I, World War II, and all the battles that came before that. Not for you, and barely for even for me, but for their children, just for us who are hosted here, welcomed here. No other culture of people have been so welcoming towards multiculturalism the way white English people have been. Only for us to turn around and say, no, actually, we need to decolonize the education system and we don't need to learn this history. As an African, if someone ever tried to come into Congo and say, we need to not learn the Congolese history and we need to erase the Congolese history, you might get backhanded because no, no. There's so many places where you can learn the history you want to learn.
Outlooks and experiences we study more universal. And naturally, these change with time. Every shift in the political climate, every development on the global stage affects individuals differently, be that due to their sexuality, gender, race, religion, or economic background. And it's essential that we're willing to reflect these changes within the curriculum.
Yeah, I don't understand this need to reflect everything. Like, it's not possible. I feel like the modern Western world, okay, has this obsession with trying to reflect everything. We need to reflect fat people. We need to reflect gay people. We need to reflect transgender people. We need to reflect Muslim people. Everything needs to be reflected. And what happens is you end up having a black gay Doctor Who. Why do we need a black gay Doctor Who? It makes no sense. It makes no sense.
There's a famous quote by George Santayana, which I imagine many of you will know. Me quoting a white European man is, in a way, ironic. I struggled to find an equally popular and relevant quote by, for example, a woman of colour, showing how our views on history.
Women of color have so many quotes. I don't understand. Maya Angelou, Beyonce, Rosa Parks. Women of color have so many quotes out there. You just didn't look hard enough because you wanted to make a point.
Are dominated by a specific demographic of people. Anyway, it's those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it.
Yeah, the reason why they dominate it is because this is their country. Now, if a white man was to go to China, his culture is not going to be dominated because that's China. If a white man was to go to Africa, his culture is not going to be dominated because that's Africa. But when he goes to England, yes, his culture is going to be dominated because that's his native land. There's also a woman called Nagat who responded to Tommy Robinson, who responded to this. So basically, Tommy Robinson basically said, this one giving a TED talk at Nottingham University on decolonizing the curriculum from white European males, missing the irony of being allowed to speak in public whilst not being allowed to show her hair. These people need to leave. And then this woman called Nagat commented and responded, I'm disgusted by Tommy Robinson and his attack on a young Muslim woman from Nottingham online today. My choice to wear hijab is my choice, and as an elected councillor and leader of the Nottingham City, these people do not need to leave. We're here to lead and stand up to bullies. How can you come into a person's country? And this is why I asked this in the beginning of the video. How can you come into a person's country, impose your history, force a different curriculum down onto us, impose your culture, impose your values, impose your religion, impose your beliefs, impose your halal, impose the curriculum changes, and then say that another person's a bully for wanting to preserve their culture? You're the bully. You're the bully for feeling as though that person has no right to believe that their culture should be preserved. That is bullying. But, anyways, guys, I just feel like these people come with their very woke talking points and think that they are being smart and think that they are being intelligent when really and truly they just sound very, very stupid. And I think the biggest stupid part about this is the audacity for you to willingly come into another person's land, or maybe her parents came here, and try to erase their culture. It's such a shame because I know a lot of first, second generation immigrants came into this country because they wanted to contribute. They love British values, they love British culture. But I feel like my generation, Gen Z and millennials, we've been so indoctrinated by liberalism and wokeism that we suddenly see Western culture as some kind of disdain in the world while still benefiting from it. The ironies. I have a question for you guys, honestly, and please answer this to me in the comment section. Why is every culture allowed to have a culture except white culture? Please tell me that in their own country. If anyone can give me a good answer to that, I promise you I will send you £100, because it's not making sense. We always see these things as offensive when it comes to other cultures. You can't erase Islam, you can't erase Middle Eastern culture, you can't erase African culture, you can't erase slavery, you can't erase nothing. But anyways, guys, if you guys want more videos like this where I give you guys real journalism, like, comment, and don't forget to subscribe. Bye guys.